Paris is the capital of France and one of the great cities of Europe. It is an exciting, absorbing, fascinating city. The sights of Paris being famous throughout the world, and literally millions of tourists visit every year. There's excitement in the air, history all around, a charm unequaled anywhere. I was really looking forward to the challenge of shooting this city, and I enjoyed every minute. So here we go, first trip, Saint Michel, which is the stop for Notre Dame, and was the place I remembered best from my previous visit in 1967. And here is the breakfast place, orange juice, croissant and café au lait, for a grand total of €7, and very enjoyable. The first trip was the Palace of Versailles. Paris in the 17th century was a rowdy, rabble-ridden city, and Louis XIV hated it and looked for a new place to live, and he settled on Versailles, which is about 12 miles west of Paris. Here is his statue. His father had a hunting lodge there. This is the Hall of Mirrors, with 17 vast windows, carefully arranged so that the sun's light would reflect. It was here, in the aftermath of the Franco-Prussian War, that Bismarck made the Kaiser head of a united Germany. And in November 1919, that Germany signed the Treaty of Versailles, that officially ended World War I. The magnificent gardens were recently restored to their 17th century splendor. Directly in front of the chateau is a formal terrace of lawns, fountains and walkways, studded by some 200 magnificent statues, many of which used to be gilded. One can even enjoy the gardens in a horse and carriage, a romantic option in a romantic setting. It was a very beautiful day. Occasionally I got people to take a picture of me. To the right is the Grand Trianon, the first pavilion, that was built as a trysting place where Louis XIV could meet his mistress. Many beautiful fountains adorn the gardens. This being the centerpiece. For me, it was a tremendous contrast to my home in Hong Kong and Asia in general. The luscious green lawns, elegant fountains, statues and gardens made it a memorable place to visit. is the place where families come out from Paris, often with the children, and enjoy rowing boats on the canal. A cruise on the river is a wonderful experience. The boats are called Batteau and offer interesting trips up and down the river. The evening time is an especially nice time to take a trip. This is the boat. I started out by heading up toward the Eiffel Tower, bathed in the evening sun. Surely one of the best ways to see Paris by night is to take an evening trip down the river. The sights were really very nice. There were even some restaurant boats. I got off the boat at Notre and had a look at the cathedral by night. And then into the Latin Quarter, which is perhaps one of the best places to eat in Paris. There's a tremendous variety of things to savor. Next morning, up early, Sacre, Coeur and Montmartre were the first places to visit. Areas rich in culture, which was the home of such artists as Henry Toulouse-Lautrec. Very popular nowadays. The huge white dome of the Basilica Sacre dominates the skyline, and which makes it easily recognizable. During the Franco-Prussian War in 1780, two businessmen felt the nation needed to show devotion and repentance if it was to be spared. The result was the basilica set on top of the hill. Nowadays, artists and restaurants dominate the place, not forgetting the indispensable barrel organ player. Let's take a look around. I then went down the hill and had a nice walk round the Moulin Rouge. No trip to Paris is complete without a visit to the Eiffel Tower. It opened in 1889 and was originally painted in graduating colours, bronze at the base and pale yellow at the top. It's 1,051 feet high and weighs 9,950 tons. It contains 15,000 pieces of metal and 2.5 million rivets. This is the engine that drives the lift. The next day, it was time to visit the Louvre. The Louvre is not only one of the world's greatest art galleries, it's also the largest royal palace in the world. Apparently, there are 18 miles of corridors in here. The most famous exhibit is the Mona Lisa. But there are also many other beautiful paintings and sculptures. Apparently, Leonardo da Vinci brought the Mona Lisa here to Paris himself during the reign of Francois I to start a collection of paintings by the masters of the day. Venus de Milo. The Egyptian section was very interesting. I didn't manage to walk the 18 miles of corridors, but nevertheless I walked a long way. I was soon back in the sunshine. So I got a selfie in front of the ultra-modern pyramid that was added in 1988. There's a great walk from the Louvre west to the Champs-Elysees that passes some beautiful parks. After that, I visited the Place de la Concorde, which is the eastern end of the Champs-Elysees. This is the Opera. So once on the Champs-Elysees, the only thing to do is to have a cup of café au lait and a baguette sandwich. In 1806, Napoleon commissioned Chagrin to design the massive Roman-style Arc de Triomphe in celebration of his military victories. It's 165 feet high and 150 feet wide. Other than from the top of the Eiffel Tower, the best view of Paris has to be from the Arc de Triomphe. The Grand Arch de la Défense is a gleaming white 330-foot cube that was built there to revitalize the inner suburbs. It was finished in 1989 and built to celebrate the bicentennial of the Revolution. The Seine is interesting in the morning. The walks in and around the cathedral are surely worth the time. The last time I was in the cathedral was 48 years ago. There were even some Chinese people in the gardens who asked me to take their picture, so I asked them to take mine. The river is very beautiful here. The cathedral is actually built on an island on the river. A favorite spot for the boats as they go up and down. The Musee is only a short walk away. Now that would be a great scene for a painting. Wow, this artist certainly had his measurements accurate. Let's try that one more time. So how did I do that? A good option for the visitor is the open bus tour that gives a quick glimpse of the city, assuming there are no traffic jams. As we travel along, we get some idea of the culture here. People having a coffee in the street cafes, reading newspapers. We saw the rich and the poor. The River Seine defines the geography of Paris, but also shows the great architecture as it winds its way through the city for 7.5 miles. I was then able to take a visit to the Catacombs. This is the Empire of the Dead. In 1786, approximately 2 million bodies were transferred from central cemeteries in Paris to an ancient quarry which became known as the Catacombs. It was not too cold on top of the bus. This is the Museum d'Orsay, which used to be the railway station. A museum pass allows entry to all the museums in Paris for 5 days. These shots were taken from the bus when it stopped in various places. There are 36 bridges over the river in the city centre. The oldest, ironically, is called the Pont Neuf, the new bridge, opened in 1607. The Eiffel Tower looked magnificent in the sunset, as did the Champs-Elysees. The metro is very modern. 13 lines crossing the city, and certainly the fastest way to get around. Lines like this are very modern. You can sit right in front of the train. The line that went to the hotel where I was staying was one of the oldest lines. The one we can see here is the newest. So back to the Latin Quarter for dinner. The next day I took a visit to Fontain Bleu. The train leaves next to the high-speed TVG trains in the beautiful Gare de Lyon railway station, built between 1875 and 1902. Fontainebleau is the place where Napoleon made his home. This was a favorite place for generations of rulers, and almost every future monarch demolished some parts, renovated and added to it. During the French Revolution, it was stripped bare, the lake drained, and the fish sold to the masses. Nevertheless, today, it is still one of the most charming palaces in France and has a real sense of history. Napoleon loved Fontainebleau and spent much of his time here. He signed his abdication here on the 6th of April 1814 in the dramatically named Coeur d'Adieu, the court of farewell. Looking around, I got a sense of Napoleon himself. More than any other place I saw in France, this reminded me of the British stately homes. The library. The beautifully painted ceiling is special. This is the only throne room existing in France today. Louis XV made this room the council chamber, and this is one bed in which Napoleon definitely did spend the night. It is said that every town in France claims to have a bed in which Napoleon supposedly slept. A very interesting visit, and the town of Fontainebleau was a very quaint town. I enjoyed a nice meal in Le Grand Café, and then took a stroll through the town. Before getting the train back to Paris. Trains in France are very good, and I often thought when I was there that I should like to visit the provinces. Then on the metro. Got some shots that typify Paris, and made some last visits. The Church of Mary Magdalene. The high-class shops. So the last evening, and a little time to get my final shots. A memorable visit.